YouTube, it's time for VEDA. It is April 3rd, and tonight I wanted to talk about my trip to PAX about a week and a half ago. It was 5 days that I spent in Boston with 4 friends, also from Ontario, who came down with me, and it was a really good time. The problem is I don't know how to fit the whole experience of PAX into a VEDA-size vlog. I mean, it's hours worth of talking that I could do about PAX East, and Dan the Video Ninja, who's one of the friends I went down with, is actually doing that for VEDA. He's talking about PAX East throughout the course of the month. So you can always check out his videos somewhere here, and to really get a more comprehensive and a little more in-depth look at the con. If you're hearing thumping throughout the course of my video tonight, that's just the cat trying to get into my room. Yeah. I'm glad he likes me, but man, he's not allowed in my room. So, general review of PAX East. The expo floor actually had pretty much very little for me. I am interested in playing demos of games, but I am absolutely not interested in waiting in line to do it. So all of the big name companies that were there all had lineups to play their games. I did hang around the Nintendo booth for a while because I wanted to try out Pikmin 3, because that's the game I want to get, and they had the new Lego game out as well. But after standing around the booth and watching a couple other people play the demo while I was waiting for my turn, I decided I don't need to play it. It was clearly another Pikmin game. I don't need to test it. I know I'm going to buy it anyway once I get a Wii U. So, yeah. The other, again, big name companies, I'm not willing to wait in line. And all the indie games, a lot of them seemed like they'd be really interesting, but I'm the kind of person who wants to know ahead of time if it's a game I'm going to be interested in before I sit down and try to start playing. And not having done any research or anything before going to PAX, just walking past all the booths, I didn't really get a good idea if any of the games were something I'd like. And there were a couple that did look like they'd be the kind of game that I would really enjoy, and then I took a closer look at their booth or at their flyers or whatever, and then just to find out that it's on a platform that I don't have and I won't be getting. So I was, yeah. Anyway, the expo floor, and in terms of shopping, they had a few really nice vendors, but it was nothing that really grabbed me and I really needed to purchase. So that was and I know for a lot of people that's the main attraction of the con. However, having said that the expo floor itself was not for me, I still had an amazing time. I had such a good weekend. So what did I do if I wasn't interested in the show floor? One thing that my friends were selling me on about PAX ahead of time was the sense of community, and I didn't really get it until I started going to the PAX East forums ahead of time. And just there's threads upon threads upon threads of meetups and events and parties and all kinds of stuff. And I'm just like, not only do you have the convention and the panels and the concerts and the show floor and the contests that all the companies that are there are running, but you also have all these community-driven events that aren't technically part of the organization of the convention itself, which was amazing. I had brunch with a bunch of people on Sunday, a bunch of girls, which was a lot of fun and really nice to meet some of the other ladies that were there. There was also an international food exchange that I found out about through the forum, and so I got to get some of the American food that they don't sell up here and I have a hard time getting because I don't want to pay for shipping. That was great, because there was just a meetup where people could trade foods from wherever they're from, and there was talking about ahead of time, so if someone had a request for cookies from Australia, if someone was coming from Australia, they might pick up some cookies and bring them in. Awesome. There's also cosplay meetup, which was arranged there was one on Friday, but I didn't see anybody there. I stopped by briefly. Saturday, there was a lot of really awesome costumers there, so I got to meet several new people, make a couple of new friends, as well as see a couple of friends that I made in New York. Very, very briefly, unfortunately. But they were there and I got to say hi. I also got to have lunch with a few people who I know through cosplay.com, and it was the first time meeting any of them in person, and they were all amazing and I had a great time. It was a really chill, relaxed, cool lunch. Of course, on top of all the community organized events, there were, the actual expo events. I ended up missing a couple of panels that I really wanted to see, which are both Friday morning, and we just didn't get up quite early enough, and then the shuttle that was running from our hotel to the con ended up stuck in traffic. So I had to miss out on the cosplay panel, of course, as well as sort of an introduction to PAX. So that sucked, but I did get to go to a handful of other panels, including What's Your Gamer Type, which is run by GameOnGirl.com, and it was sort of an examination of the different play styles that people have regarding games. I thought they had a really interesting way of looking at some of this stuff, as well as doing it in a quiz format, which was pretty fun. Geeks Get +5 to Crafting was the first panel we went to on Saturday, and that one was a little disappointing, I think. Both Kurumasha and I went there, I think, expecting more of sort of a general overview and different ways that people incorporate, their gamer lifestyle or geek lifestyle into crafts and that kind of thing. But what it ended up being was a lot more description of what each of the panelists does. So what I would expect normally to be a couple of minutes intro before the panel, for each of the panelists, was pretty much the panel. That Cute Radioactive Couple was a reading of a play, or at least the first part of a play, that was done by a group of actors as a panel, and that was really entertaining. I'm really glad I went to that. I also hit up the You Game Like a Girl, Tales of Trolls and White Knights, which was on Sunday. I think it was a really well presented panel on girls and gaming and geek culture and the, feminism. There wasn't a lot of viewpoints that I haven't heard before, but it was really nice to have it presented and to see it presented live, and hopefully getting those voices out to people who maybe haven't heard about some of the problems that women have in terms of the gamer and the nerd culture. Also, cathartic cup throwing. I really liked that. On top of panels, I also went to the concerts. I didn't go to the one Friday night, but Saturday night we did catch Jonathan Coulton and Pollen Storm. I'm a little familiar with some of Coulton's work, so I specifically wanted to go to see him. But Pollen Storm, I haven't seen or heard any of their songs before, and we loved them. Shauna, Andy, Dan, and I were all there, and we were planning to stay maybe for the first couple of songs, and so we stayed for the whole set. It was so good. I bought their music before leaving, so that was good, and I'm really glad that we hit up the concert, even though it meant missing a party Saturday night, which, the concert was worth it. So I'm sorry, friends who I didn't see at the party, but Pollen Storm, they were so good. I didn't even talk about the cosplay. Of course, cosplay is an entirely different thing by itself. Friday, I wore Wendy from Gravity Falls, and I had a few people recognize me and really, really like the costume, but generally nobody had any idea what I was dressed as or realized that I was dressed up. Sunday, same kind of deal. I wore my Dragonite hoodie, and I was hanging out with Shauna and Andy, who were both also in Pokemon hoodies, so we were like, Pokemon. And while people seemed to enjoy our costumes, nobody wanted any photos. Nobody really cared to take photos of us. So that was kind of unusual. I mean, even at anime cons at Anime North, people tend to be excited about the hoodies and like to take pictures of them. So that was a little different. Maybe it's just because it was Sunday. Saturday, however, I did wear my Imp Midna costume, and I spent the day with Kurumasha, Shauna, wearing her Tetra from Wind Waker, so we were both in our GameCube non-Zelda princess costumes, and we spent a lot of the day just wandering around the show floor and wandering around the halls, and we were having a great time, and we got such a good response from people about the costumes. So many people wanted to take photos, and it was great. Everybody who we ran into was super polite and nice, and it was just a really unexpected good experience as a cosplayer. There were only 2 instances that I can remember in which people would not behave perfectly, and even then, on the grand scale of how cosplayers are generally treated at cons, they were still pretty good. I admit, going in, because Midna is an older costume of mine and the game is a little bit older, not that old, I was thinking, people wouldn't pay much attention to it and I wouldn't get you know, a very positive response to it. So I was really pleasantly surprised and happy that I wore it and that I managed to get it out of retirement and fix it up just barely enough to wear to the con. Yeah. And on that note, not only were all the attendees we ran into super nice and super polite, people we ran into and had conversations with were awesome. All the enforcers, if you don't know, those are the PAX East sort of volunteers and staffers and line control and all that stuff. They were amazing. Every single one of them knew what was going on. If they didn't know, they found out, and they were so nice and so helpful. They were great at keeping everyone's morale up when we were in a long line. They were handing out swag. It was great. So, enforcers, you guys did an amazing job. The bar has been raised so high for me for all other conventions forever. And I do also want to say a special thank you to Dan the Video Ninja, because all day Saturday he was hanging around with Kurumasha and I in our costumes. He was carrying our bags, he was collecting business cards from photographers, he was handing out our contact cards so we could find the photos later. So Dan, thank you so much for that, and I'm glad that you didn't mind giving up a large chunk of your Saturday to do that. So I think that's the main gist of things. It's a long video, so I will let you go now. I gotta edit this thing. Good night. This is getting rough. Oh dear.